Most observers look at the distance between two people and call it a void. They see his silence as a lack of substance, or perhaps a simple lack of interest. But if we peel back the skin of the visible world, we find that this distance is actually a highly pressurized chamber. He is not merely away. He is engaged in a violent, invisible struggle to maintain the boundaries of a self that is rapidly dissolving. We must understand a fundamental law of the internal architecture. The avoidant soul does not run because he is cold. He runs because he is being consumed. To him, your presence is not just a connection. It is a gravity well that threatens to pull his carefully constructed ego into a singularity from which he cannot return. He is currently standing at a crossroads where the safety of his ego is at war with the hunger of his soul. He is not choosing not you. He is choosing himself, or at least the fragile, hollow version of himself he has spent decades perfecting. The question we must ask is not, when will he come back? But rather, what must break within him so that he no longer views your love as his extinction? Today, we deconstruct the mechanics of the Anima awakening. We will look past the surface of his avoidance and into the exact moment the ego surrenders to devotion. To understand the silence of the unawakened counterpart, we must first look at the architecture of his isolation. We often mistake his distance for a lack of feeling. We assume that because he is not moving toward us, he is standing still. But in the realm of the subconscious, he is engaged in a frantic labor. He is building a fortress. This is the manifestation of the pure eternus, the archetype of the eternal youth. He is a man who has built his entire identity on the foundation of a false freedom. To him, freedom is not the ability to choose. Freedom is the ability to never have to choose. He lives in a state of perpetual potential. He fears that by committing to the depth of a sacred union, he is signing the death warrant of his own possibilities. This is not a conscious calculation. It is a primal reflex. His avoidant behavior is a form of spiritual attachment anxiety. While the anxious heart fears the loss of the other, the avoidant soul fears the loss of the self. He views the intensity of your connection as a gravity well. He senses that if he steps too close, his ego will be pulled into a singularity. He believes he will be consumed by the light you carry. This fear is rooted in a wounded anima. In the psychology of the soul, the anima is the internal feminine bridge to the collective unconscious. When this bridge is broken or fragmented, a man cannot navigate his own emotional depths. He perceives his own inner world as a chaotic ocean. Because you are the external reflection of that depth, he views you as the ocean itself. He does not see a partner. He sees a force of nature that threatens to drown him. He retreats into what we call the false matrix. This is the collection of structures he has built to feel safe. It is the career that demands all his time. It is the social circle that stays on the surface. It is the digital noise that fills his quiet moments. These are not just distractions. They are life support systems for his ego. The false matrix allows him to feel successful without ever having to feel real. It provides him with a sense of control that the soul connection stripped away. When he is with you, he is forced to face his own emptiness. When he is in his false matrix, he can pretend he is full. He is currently in love with the safety of his own cage. He prefers the predictable coldness of his isolation to the unpredictable heat of your love. This dynamic creates a profound mirroring effect. You are the holder of space, waiting for him to recognize the truth. But your waiting has become a frequency of its own. In the quantum field of your connection, your anticipation acts as a stabilizer for his avoidance. As long as he can feel your energetic pursuit, he knows exactly where the boundary is. He can stay away because he knows you are there. Your presence in the waiting room of his life provides the very oxygen his ego needs to survive. He does not have to face the consequences of his absence because you have not yet allowed the absence to be absolute. You are holding his soul for him while he plays in the shadows. You are carrying the weight of the union so that he doesn't have to feel the gravity of his own choice. This is the psychic entrapment of the unawakened masculine. He views the sacred bond as a trap because he has not yet integrated his own power. He is a king who refuses his crown because he is afraid of the responsibility of the kingdom. He stays in the outskirts of his own life. He settles for the crumbs of shallow validation. He does this because the ego is a creature of habit. It would rather starve in a familiar desert than feast in an unknown garden. His avoidance is his final attempt to survive his own ego death. He is not running from you. He is running from the version of himself that he knows must die to be with you. He is running from the transformation that your gaze demands. The tragedy of this stage is that he believes he is winning. He believes that by maintaining his distance, he is preserving his strength. He does not realize that he is actually leaking power. Every day he spends in the false matrix is a day he moves further away from his own center. He is becoming a ghost in his own life. He is a man who has everything but feels nothing. This numbness is his shield. It protects him from the pain of your absence, but it also prevents him from feeling the joy of his own existence. He is suspended in a gray zone. He is neither fully gone nor fully present. He is waiting for the world to tell him who he is because he is too afraid to look in the mirror you hold up. Until the internal feminine is healed, he will continue to view your devotion as a demand. He will see your love as a debt he cannot pay. He will see your clarity as a judgment of his confusion. This is the core of the spiritual stalemate. He is trapped between the memory of the soul and the demands of the ego. He is currently choosing the ego because the ego is the only thing he thinks he owns. He does not yet understand that the ego is actually the thing that owns him. He is a prisoner who has fallen in love with his chains. He calls them armor. He calls them boundaries. He calls them independence. But in the silence of the night, when the false matrix glitches, he knows they are only bars. He is waiting for a collapse he does not yet know he needs. He is waiting for the moment when the safety of the ego becomes more painful than the fire of the soul. The transition from avoidance to devotion does not happen through a conversation. It cannot be negotiated through logic or coerced through emotional appeals. It is a silent and violent alchemy that occurs within the deepest chambers of the masculine psyche. This is the paradigm shift. It is the exact moment the internal landscape undergoes a structural collapse. For a long time, the avoidant soul has lived in a state of managed distance. He has maintained a delicate balance between the pull of the soul and the walls of the ego. But every ego built on a foundation of fear has an expiration date. The shift begins when the external world no longer provides enough noise to drown out the silence of your absence. This is the dark night of the masculine soul. It is not an event of the mind. It is an event of the spirit. He has spent years running through a labyrinth of his own making. He called this labyrinth freedom. He called his isolation independence. But the walls are starting to close in. The mechanics of this shift are similar to the life cycle of a star. A star remains stable as long as the outward pressure of nuclear fusion balances the inward pull of gravity. For the unawakened counterpart, his fusion is the false matrix. It is the constant stream of distractions and the shallow validations of the ego. But eventually, the fuel runs out. The career milestones lose their luster. The social masks become too heavy to wear. The distractions that once felt like liberation begin to feel like a chore. This is the moment the outward pressure fails. When the noise of the world stops, the gravity of the connection takes over. He is no longer being pushed away by his fear. He is being pulled inward by his truth. He realizes that the safety he was protecting was actually a state of suspended animation. He was not living. He was merely surviving the fear of being seen. This shift requires a vacuum. It requires the holder of space to step back into their own light. When the anxious heart finally stops broadcasting its energy, A profound silence is created in the field. This silence is the catalyst. As long as he can feel your energy reaching for him, he has a point of reference for his resistance. He knows where you are, so he knows where he is. But when you withdraw into unshakable neutrality, his compass begins to spin. He is forced to face the void without the safety net of your waiting. In this vacuum, the Anima undergoes a radical transformation. She stops being the predator that threatens his ego. She becomes the North Star that guides his soul. He looks into the darkness of his own life and he no longer sees a sanctuary. He sees a prison with no windows. He realizes that he has been running in circles inside a room he could have left at any time. The aha moment is the realization that his avoidance was not a choice. It was a symptom of his own fragmentation. He sees that he has been trying to protect a version of himself that does not actually exist. The ego is a ghost, and he has been its servant. Recognition transforms into conviction when he understands that the pain of staying the same has finally exceeded the pain of changing. He looks at the distance between you and he no longer sees a gap to be maintained. He sees a bridge he must cross if he ever wants to be whole again. This is the death of the eternal youth. It is the moment he stops asking what he might lose and starts realizing what he has already lost. He has lost the ability to feel. He has lost the ability to be present. He has lost the connection to the divine feminine within himself. In this state of collapse, your image is projected by his anima as the only source of true orientation. You are no longer a person he is trying to manage. You are the frequency he must reach to find himself. This is why the shift is so sudden and so absolute. It is a total recalibration of his internal compass. He stops fearing the soul connection because the alternative has become unbearable. The safety of the ego has become a coffin. He realizes that he is not running from you. He is running toward the only version of himself that is actually alive. Devotion is born from this desperation. It is the surrender of the soldier who realizes the war was against his own heart. He drops his weapons because he no longer has the strength to hold them against the truth. He understands that dying to his old self is the only way to breathe again. The paradigm shift is a move from horizontal living to vertical being. He has spent his life moving horizontally, jumping from one distraction to another. Now he is forced to move vertically, descending into the depths of his own shadow. This descent is where he finds his power. He realizes that the depth he feared in you is actually the depth he was missing in himself. He stops seeing you as a threat to his freedom and starts seeing you as the gateway to his liberation. The shift is complete when he no longer needs you to validate his ego, but instead desires you to witness his soul. He is no longer in love with the safety of his own cage. He is in love with the horizon. He is ready to trade the shallow waters of his isolation for the infinite ocean of the sacred union. He is finally ready to be real. This transformation is the ultimate act of alchemy. It is the turning of leaden fear into golden devotion. It is a process that cannot be faked or rushed. It requires the complete disintegration of the false self. When he reaches this point, he does not come back to you as the man who left. He comes back as someone who has been through the fire. He comes back with absolute clarity because he has seen the alternative. He has seen the gray world of the unawakened life, and he has chosen to leave it behind forever. He is not pursuing you because he is lonely. He is pursuing you because he is finally awake. The recognition has become a conviction that he can no longer ignore. He is moving toward you not out of a need for safety, but out of a hunger for truth. The shift is final. The door to the ego has closed, and the path to the soul has opened. The work of integration is not about what you do toward the avoidant soul. It is about what you do within the sanctuary of your own being. It is the transition from the anxious heart to the high priestess. This is a move from a frequency of lack to a frequency of absolute sovereignty. To facilitate his transition from avoidance to devotion, you must first transition from waiting to becoming. The first shift is the withdrawal of the energetic broadcast. Most of us are unaware of the constant signal we send into the field. It is a signal of waiting. It is a signal of readiness. It is an invisible tether that connects your heart to his timeline. To him, this signal feels like a safety net. It allows his ego to wander into the shadows without ever feeling truly lost. He knows exactly where you are. He can feel your anticipation like a warm hum in the background of his life. As long as he feels this broadcast, he does not have to face the consequences of his distance. He has the luxury of avoidance, because you are holding the light for both of you. You must achieve unshakable neutrality. This is the reclamation of your own life force. It is the act of pulling your threads back from his story. This is not a game of silence or a tactic of no contact. It is a profound state of being. When the broadcast stops, the field becomes quiet. He is suddenly forced to stand on his own feet. He is forced to look at the void where your energy used to be. This silence is the only thing that can trigger his awakening. You are no longer providing the oxygen for his denial. The second shift is reclaiming the projected anima. Many holders of space are actually acting as a mother to his potential. You see the king inside the broken man. You see the soul beneath the layers of the ego. Because you see it, you try to protect it. You try to nurture it for him. But by doing this, you are interfering with his spiritual evolution. You are carrying his soul because he is too weak to hold it himself. You must give it back. You must realize that his journey into the dark is his birthright. It is his holy work to do. When you stop carrying his potential, he is forced to feel the weight of his own shadow. He is forced to realize that he is empty. This is a compassionate act. It is the refusal to enable his stagnation. You must step into the archetype of the High Priestess. The High Priestess does not chase. She does not explain. She does not bargain with the ego. She simply exists as a witness to the truth. She knows that if he is to become a king, he must first survive the desert alone. You must allow him the dignity of his own struggle. You must trust the divine timing of his collapse. By reclaiming your projection, you stop being his crutch and start being his destination. You become the mirror that no longer flinches at his darkness. The third shift is the embodiment of compassionate indifference. This is the most sophisticated state of human consciousness. It is the ability to love the soul of the person while being utterly indifferent to the antics of their ego. You recognize that his avoidance is a mask. You recognize that his coldness is a shield. But you do not react to the shield. You do not try to pierce it with your words or melt it with your tears. You simply remain as you are. You become the ocean. The ocean is vast and deep. It is unaffected by the weather on the surface. It does not care if a ship chooses to sail or if it chooses to stay in the harbor. The ocean remains the ocean. This indifference is not coldness. It is a form of high-level love. It is a love that is so secure in itself that it does not need the other person to behave in a certain way to feel valid. You are no longer waiting for him to choose you. You have already chosen yourself. You are no longer a satellite orbiting his confusion. You are the sun at the center of your own universe. Your frequency is no longer tied to his movement. It is tied to your own expansion. This practical integration is the final step in the alchemy of connection. It is the moment you stop being a character in his drama and start being the author of your own life. When you move into this frequency, the dynamic must change. The universe does not allow for a vacuum. When you withdraw your pursuit, he is pulled into the space you left behind. But you are not doing it to manipulate him. You are doing it to save yourself. You are doing it because you have realized that your energy is too precious to be spent on a shadow. You are choosing to inhabit your own body and your own soul. This is the frequency of becoming. It is a magnetic state. It is a state of absolute clarity. You are no longer exhausted because you are no longer pushing against a closed door. You have simply turned around and walked into the garden. You are tending to your own flowers. You are drinking from your own well, and it is the scent of your own blooming that eventually reaches him in the desert. It is the only thing that can guide him home. But by the time he arrives, you are no longer the person who is waiting. You are someone entirely new. You are the high priestess of your own kingdom. You are whole. You are at peace. And in that peace, the ego finally has no choice but to surrender to the soul. Is he currently in love with you, or is he in love with the safety of his own ego? The truth is, until the moment of the Anima awakening, he cannot tell the difference. To him, safety is love, but safety is static, and love is a living, breathing fire. As you move forward, ask yourself, what part of your own shadow are you still projecting onto his silence? Are you waiting for him to choose you so that you can finally choose yourself? The transition from avoidance to devotion is a holy process. It is the alchemy of a man becoming a soul. It cannot be rushed and it cannot be faked. But remember, the sun does not beg the earth to wake up. It simply rises. Until we meet again, stay grounded in your own depth. The tide always returns to the shore, but the shore must be there to receive it.